The single dad waited for a friend day, but a Chinese heiress came with proof of a great betrayal. The rain hammered against the diner's windows like accusations Marcus couldn't escape. He sat in the corner booth, the same one where he'd shared countless meals with his daughter Emma before the cancer took her, and now the same one where he waited for his old college buddy Jake, the only person who'd promised to help him keep Emma's memory alive through the scholarship fund they'd discussed. Marcus checked his phone again, 7:47 p.m. Jake was nearly 2 hours late, but Marcus had nowhere else to go. The eviction notice in his jacket pocket reminded him that even this small comfort would soon be gone. The bell above the door chimed, and Marcus looked up expecting to see Jake's familiar face. Instead, a petite Asian woman in an elegant black coat stood in the doorway, her dark hair gleaming with raindrops. She scanned the nearly empty diner with purpose, her gaze settling on Marcus. Something in her expression, a mixture of determination and sorrow, made his chest tighten. "Mr. Marcus Chen?" she asked, approaching his table with measured steps. Marcus nodded, confused. "Yes, but I think you have me confused with someone else. I'm waiting for a—" "My name is Wei Zhang," she interrupted gently, sliding into the booth across from him. "I flew here from Shanghai because I have something that belongs to you, something your friend Jake Sullivan never intended for you to see." The mention of Jake's last name sent a chill down Marcus's spine. In all their recent conversations about the scholarship fund, Jake had been evasive about details, always promising to handle the logistics while Marcus grieved. Marcus studied Wei's face, noting the expensive cut of her coat, the subtle confidence that spoke of wealth, but also something else, a deep sadness that mirrored his own. "I don't understand," Marcus said carefully. "How do you know Jake? And how did you find me here?" Wei reached into her purse and withdrew a manila folder, placing it on the worn formica table between them. "6 months ago, your friend contacted our family's charitable foundation in China. He presented a compelling proposal for the Emma Chen Memorial Scholarship, a fund to help underprivileged children pursue education in memory of your daughter." Marcus's hands trembled slightly. Emma had always talked about helping other kids get the chances she might never have. Even during her final weeks in the hospital, she'd made him promise to find a way to help children who couldn't afford school supplies or tutoring. Jake had seemed like an answer to prayer when he'd offered to help establish something formal. "Our foundation was moved by Emma's story," Wei continued. "We donated $50,000 as the initial endowment." She paused, watching Marcus's expression shift from confusion to growing alarm. "But when I decided to personally visit the scholarship recipients, as something I do for all our major donations, I discovered something troubling." With deliberate care, Wei opened the folder and spread several documents across the table. Bank statements, emails, legal documents, all bearing Jake's name and signature. Marcus's vision blurred as he tried to process what he was seeing. "There is no scholarship fund, Mr. Chen." "There never was." The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. He stared at the evidence before him. Jake had opened an account using Emma's name and Marcus's story, collected the donation, and then nothing. The money had been moved to Jake's personal accounts, used to pay off debts and fund what appeared to be gambling losses. This can't be right," Marcus whispered, his voice breaking. "Jake was Emma's godfather. He held her when she was born. He was at every birthday party, every school play. He cried at her funeral." Wei's expression softened. "Grief makes people do unexpected things, Mr. Chen. Sometimes it reveals who they truly are, and sometimes it changes them into someone unrecognizable." Marcus felt the familiar ache of loss expand in his chest, but now it was compounded by a betrayal so profound it left him breathless. He thought about the conversations with Jake over the past months. How enthusiastic his old friend had seemed about honoring Emma's memory. The plans they'd made, the children they'd hoped to help her, all of it had been a lie. "Why are you telling me this?" Marcus asked, his voice barely audible. "You could have just handled it through lawyers or whatever. Why fly all the way here?" Wei was quiet for a moment, her fingers tracing the edge of one of the documents. I lost my younger brother when I was Emma's age. He died in an accident that could have been prevented if we'd had access to better resources. My family's wealth came later, too late to save him. When I read Emma's story, how she faced her illness with such courage, how she wanted to help other children even while fighting for her own life, it reminded me why we give. She looked directly at Marcus, and he saw his own grief reflected in her eyes. But more than that, I've spent my adult life surrounded by people who want things from me because of my family's money. When I investigated this situation, when I learned about who you really are, I discovered something rare. What's that? You're not asking for anything. Even now, even after losing your daughter and facing eviction, even after being betrayed by someone you trusted, you're not angry at me or demanding compensation. You're just heartbroken. And somehow, that makes me want to help even more. Marcus wiped his eyes with the back of his hand, embarrassed by his tears. I don't know what to say. I feel like such a fool. I should have been more involved, should have asked more questions. Stop, Li Wei said firmly. This isn't your fault. Trust isn't foolishness, Mr. Chen. The world needs more people who believe in the goodness of others, not fewer. She reached into her coat and withdrew another envelope, this one bearing the letterhead of a prestigious law firm. This is why I really came. Our foundation wants to honor the original commitment, and not to Jake Sullivan, but to Emma's memory and to you. $50,000 to establish the Emma Chen Memorial Scholarship, administered properly this time, with full transparency and your complete involvement. Marcus stared at the document, unable to process what he was reading. I can't accept this. Not after what happened. You don't even know me. I know enough, Li Wei said. I know that you worked double shifts at the warehouse to pay for Emma's medical bills. I know that you sold your car and moved to a smaller apartment to afford her treatments. I know that neighbors still talk about how you organized the community garden Emma wanted, even while she was in hospice care. She leaned forward, her voice growing stronger. I know that you've never asked anyone for help. Not even when you were sleeping in hospital waiting rooms or eating vending machine dinners for weeks. I know that Emma's teachers still talk about the father who showed up to every parent conference, every school event, every moment that mattered. Marcus felt something shift inside him, a warmth he hadn't experienced since Emma's death. For months, he'd felt invisible, forgotten, as if Emma's absence had erased his own significance in the world. But Li Wei saw him, really saw him in a way that felt both startling and healing. There's more, Li Wei continued. Our foundation would like to offer you a position as the scholarship program coordinator. It would mean working with families, helping children access educational resources, being the bridge between donors and recipients. The salary would be modest but stable, and it comes with housing assistance. Marcus looked around the diner where he'd been waiting for a friend who would never come, then back at this unexpected stranger who'd traveled thousands of miles to restore his faith in human goodness. The rain had stopped, and evening sunlight was beginning to filter through the windows, casting everything in a golden glow. Why? He asked simply. Li Wei smiled, and for the first time since she'd arrived, the sadness lifted from her features. Because Emma's story moved me, because your love for her deserves to live on in something beautiful, and because sometimes, the universe sends us exactly the person we need to heal our own hearts. As they sat together in the quiet diner, two strangers brought together by loss and betrayal but connected by something deeper, the shared understanding that love transcends death, that kindness can bridge any distance, and that sometimes our greatest heartbreaks lead us to our most meaningful purposes. Marcus felt Emma's presence more strongly than he had since her death, not as an absence, but as a guiding light showing him toward a future where her compassion could continue to touch lives. The Chinese heiress had come with proof of betrayal, yes, but she'd brought something far more powerful, proof that love, once given freely, creates ripples that travel across oceans and touch hearts in ways we never imagined possible.